Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm seeing, okay, let me see. Can you hear me okay and see me okay? I'm just gonna close the door for a second here. Ah, fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being here. Wonderful. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so welcome. Today is September 30th. This is the day that we normally do the live office hours for the School of SweetGeorgia. So we come here every month, the last Thursday of every month, to answer questions, to talk about progress, to talk about all sorts of things to do with the School of SweetGeorgia, and everything like that. Today, I know we have guests and people here in the chat who are from all over the world. I just wanted to let you know that today we were talking about whether or not we should do our live office hours today, because today is in Canada here. Today is the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation here in Canada. And so this is a day that honors Indigenous survivors and lost children from residential schools. So I think that for many people in Canada, today is a day for reflection and for learning. And so I was trying to think about what to talk about related to this. And I was thinking about how when we're talking about looking at learning more about different cultures and different communities, we try to find commonalities. And so we're here today, we're going to talk about yarn and fiber arts and weaving today. But I also kind of wanted to encourage people to explore weaving that's being done by various Indigenous communities. So one of my closest friends just last weekend took a Coast Salish weaving workshop here locally in town in Vancouver area with Chief Janice George and her husband Willard Joseph, who are both Squamish weavers. And so she had an extremely amazing experience and wanted to share that with me. And she was telling me about how she learned how weaving was so significant and so powerful. And so I wanted to sort of share that with you guys as well. And if you have time to poke around and check out their website, it's weavinghouse.com. And then you can go there, weavinghouse.com, and learn more about Coast Salish weaving from these weavers. And so it's just one thing to explore as people reflect on many other aspects of today. So that is great. I appreciate everybody for being here today for this. So I wanted to share with you guys what we are going to talk about today. So let's go there. So we are going to talk about upcoming and new content. We're going to talk about community events, the spinning study group. We're going to talk a little bit about progress. We always talk about threads to follow and a show and share as well. So things that people in our community have made. So in terms of new and upcoming courses, there's been a lot of new content that has come out in the past couple of months, and we're releasing new content like at least twice a month. New courses are coming out at least twice a month. In October, there's going to be 3 releases. And so I just want to quickly run through these with you guys, because some of these are things that you may or may not have heard me mention before. But we did have the Nuances to Spinning Better Yarns with Kim McKenna, which came out at the beginning of September. And this is like a lot of what our spinning study group has been centered around, is a lot of techniques that Kim has been teaching in that class. And then the class that we released this week, I think it's this week, last week, all the days are blurring together. But the class that I taught, Spinning Intentional Color, has just come out as well. And so that is available now. And that class is all about taking fiber that's been hand painted and how do you spin that? How do you split it? What kind of things can you do with it? And all sorts of things like that. And so that's what that spinning class is about. We have another class that is going to be about toe-up sock knitting. We will have this class. This class has been, we're joking that this class is might be a little bit, well, no, I'm not going to say it, but we're having a lot of technical nightmares with getting this class put together. But it will be put together, And we're doing it for Socktober because October is all about socks. And so toe up sock knitting class with Tabitha. I was watching the footage last night, and it's going to be great, and it's going to help you knit socks from the toe up. So that is coming as well. Amanda Wood has taught our clasp, warp, and weft class. It's a weaving class using a rigid heddle loom, and the samples for everything is done. Everything is done. It's about ready to be released very, very soon, but that is going to go out in October as well. And we have the Weaving Twills on 4 Shafts class, which is, I'm going to show you a preview of the blankets that are all done. All the projects are done from that class, and that is going to come out at the end of October as well. So that is being edited right now. You can see here we have like a little swatch here. This is a baby swatch. This is a mini version of the shawl that Charlotte has designed last year for holiday, and she's knit a new version of it in lace weight. And she teaches you how to crochet from the very, very beginning, like how to do a chain, how do you do a single crochet, how do you do a double crochet, all of these things. And by the end of the class, you would be able to knit this crochet swatch and therefore the crochet shawl. So that we're really excited about going into the crochet stuff with Charlotte as well. And needle felting, this one is going to come out closer to the holidays, but it is basically about needle felting for ornaments, like holiday ornaments and things like that. So that is coming out. And then you may or may not know that we have 2 more classes that are on the books that we are working on putting together right now, and they're going to be filmed next week in the studio here with Laura Fry. So Laura Fry is a master weaver, and she teaches at many places, including Olds College. She teaches a master weaver program at Olds, and she's coming to SweetGeorgia next week to film 2 classes with us that are going to come out in 2022, next year, in January, February next year. So we're going to do one that's going to be called The Intentional Weaver, and we're going to be doing one that is all about wet finishing. So it's a lot of weaving content that's going to be coming out in the coming months. So I wanted to share that sort of wrap up with you. And yeah, we are always open to ideas about what you guys want to learn, because we're planning stuff for 2022. I think almost all of 2022 content is planned already, but we're looking into 2023 even. And so just there's so many things to learn, so much to cover. Now, I'm going to let you know that right now in Vancouver, at the studio here, it's a bit crazy because it is just mere days before Knit City. And so I'm not sure if all of you have heard about Knit City before, but Knit City in the past, this is the 10th anniversary, actually, 10th year of doing Knit City. But Knit City is an annual yarn festival that happens here in Vancouver. And over the years, it's grown. And then last year we didn't have Knit City at all because of the pandemic. And this year, I don't think that this year we're going to have a mini version of it. So it's a much scaled down and smaller version of Knit City. And so you can see these photos here. These are from previous Knit Cities that we have been at. Our booth is not going to be this big this year. We're doing the tiniest size, the smallest size booth possible. But yeah, if you are in Vancouver and if you are interested in attending a real live in-person yarn fiber festival again, it's going to be Saturday and Sunday, and you can still get tickets. And I just wanted to also highlight that many of our School of SweetGeorgia instructors and our friends will be there. And so if you are there, you might pop around and see some of these instructors in real life. So there's Sam at Kusin and Kiss, and she taught our punch needle class. And Caitlin French, who taught all of our natural dye stuff, or a lot of our natural dye stuff, she's going to be at the booth right next to us at Boreal Folk. And then Katrina Stewart at Crafty Jacks. Of course, she teaches a lot of the carding and spinning. She taught spinning up a level, so you can see her there. Jana Maria Valley at Everly Yarn. Jana Maria, she teaches all of our tapestry content, so all the tapestry workshops. And then I don't know if many of you guys watched the fleece auction vlog that I did a couple of weeks ago, but Lynn Anderson, she has not taught any classes with us yet, but But Lynn Anderson was the fleece judge for that event, and so her booth, West Coast Color, will also be at Knit City. And then, of course, Rachel Smith from Welford Pearls will be there in some way, shape, or form. So if you're there, please do come by our tiny little booth and say hello. The next thing is I had to expand, like I had to move this header over here because there was no space, because we've added so many community events, really. So on this calendar, this is October, here is Knit City in the orange here, but you can see that we are doing knitting meetups with Robin 2 times a month on Tuesdays. So you can see the first and the third Tuesday at 10 o'clock with Robin. We have a Zoom meetup where you can go, bring your knitting, hang out, chat, whatever. And so these past couple of weeks, they have been very much kind of focused on the MCAL that we were doing, the knitting shawl. But now you can just bring whatever project you like. And Thursday nights, on the second and fourth Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Charlotte leads a knit night. And if you are new, if it's your first time attending this knit night, please, I encourage you guys to come a little bit earlier than 7. You can come 6:45. Charlotte will be there, and then that gives you some time to like chat with her a little bit and for her to get to know you, and then she can introduce you to this group. This group has been going on for quite a number of years. Finally, there's also a spinning and weaving meetup that happens on the third Saturday, 12 p.m. PST with Vicky. Vicky, I think I saw her in the chat earlier. She's here today. And so right now you can see on here, that's the 16th, October 16th is the spinning and weaving one. But there's also other spinning study groups here, and these are being held by Vicky and Greta together, and they are centered around the spinning study group. So those are also happening. But when the study group finishes, I was talking to Vicky, and we want to keep those days as spinning meetup times, the spinning weaving meetup times. So those will continue to be on the calendar. Leanne's asking, I'm sorry I missed this, is the knit night at your location or online? So right now, all of these meetings that I'm talking about, all of these meetups are all on Zoom. So they are all available online for everybody to join. Eventually, at our studio, we do want to reopen for Knit Night. I think we're going to be doing that this fall, very shortly, to be able to have people both on Zoom and in the studio for that Thursday night Knit Night, just that one day. And then I also wanted to mention that we started doing this last month, but started doing these new member welcome and orientation meetings. So I noticed that a couple of you guys on the chat were saying that this is your first time here and that you're new here. If you have just joined the school, what we do is we're doing like a little orientation meeting once a month, and it just gives me a chance to sit in a Zoom room with you and kind of walk through the website a little bit, answer any questions directly, any questions that you have about the school, about finding your way around, all of that kind of stuff. You can come to that new member orientation meeting. So that is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on that Monday afternoon. And now there's a new line item here because we have added some new Zoom meetups in October for people all over the world. So we recognize that we have members of the school from all over the world in all different time zones. And so we've decided to add a couple of other meetup times. So there's one at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which I think is about like 3 p.m. in the UK. All the time zones are all a little bit all over the place. But anyways, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will convert that for you when we do all this. And then 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which will help, I think, people in Australia and Asia. I think that makes it a little bit easier for people to sign on at those times. So Vicky, who here is in the chat right now, she will be hosting these meetup times. So she's calling it 5 a.m. Wake and Make with Vicky. And then the other one here, 8 p.m. PST, is called Making Till Midnight. So these are two new Zoom meetup times that you guys can join if you are available. Phew, that's a lot. And as you can see in this green, the study group is continuing to run, and it will run until the beginning of November. So, talking about the spinning study group, we're about halfway through right now, but it is still completely open. You can join at any time. This is something that will continue to go. We're never going to stop spinning, really. But it officially began September 1st and is going to continue on until November 4th. And spinners of all levels. There's people who are just starting to learn how to spin and they're participating in the study group. There are people who've been spinning for many, many, many years and they're also participating. I'm going to share with you some of the work that people are doing. It's fascinating what everybody is doing. And of course, this study group is being hosted by Greta and Vicky. And so you can find all of the conversations, all of the discussions under this link here. Now, if you don't know how to spin yet and you're interested in learning how to spin, I encourage you guys to check out that class, that Spinning from Scratch course. And that is basically is the class that I used to teach to people who are learning to spin for the very, very first time. And you sit down at the wheel, you learn how to treadle, you learn how to pre-draft, you learn how to draft, you learn how to add twist, all of those kinds of things. You can also do that with a spindle. You can do that, with a drop spindle. All of that will work. So to show you what the topics are for the week-by-week guidance, here is the outline of what that spinning study group is doing. And so right now we are September 30th, we're right here just doing week 4, woolen drafting. Actually, these might have got flipped. I think we did worsted first, and then we're doing woolen. But in any case, these are all of the topics, and so we're just halfway through. You can join in anytime. There's actually the next spinning meetup is going to be October 2nd. Okay. And so the whole goal of this is actually to use the study group time to do a lot of sampling, to explore different kinds of drafting techniques, explore different ways of preparing your fiber, and doing a lot of sampling and a lot of testing. So that way you can knit some swatches, see what things feel like, so that when you go to make your actual yarn for your actual project, you will have many things to choose from. And then you can decide, oh, you know what? This particular method of drafting and this method of fiber prep produced the kind of yarn that I really, really like. And so therefore I'm going to use this technique and this method for spinning all of the fiber that I want to make in order so that I can make the shawl at the end of the day, or the sweater, or whatever project it is. So it's all about sampling, really. So I'm going to share with you, these are just some of the threads that people have started. People have been starting their own study notes in the study group. And so basically when you go into the spinning study group area in the community, you can create your own thread, and using your own thread, just put all your notes about everything that you are learning, what you're observing. You can post photos, you can post whatever. And so here, this is one of Greta's photos of yarn that she's trying to basically copy. So she's using this superwash DK. It's a DK yarn, 100% superwash merino wool, and she's put some strands here of that actual yarn. She's split it up so that you can see the thickness of the plies. And then what she's doing is she is learning how to spin so that she can match these same specifications. And so this is what her testing is about. Now, what I found really, really interesting looking at all of the stuff that's happening in the spinning study group is that everyone is approaching it really differently. Like everybody has a different end goal. Everybody's got a different way of testing of what they want to try to do. And so here I'm just listing some of these notes so that way you can go check out what people are doing. So Jenny, she is doing some testing so that she can spin to make socks. Amanda B, she's doing a couple of studies, but one of her studies, she is spinning to make embroidery thread, it's fascinating. So she's got a whole bunch of cards. All of these notes threads have tons of photos in them. I really encourage you guys to check them out. Leanne, who I think I saw her in the chat as well earlier, she's doing some color blending, and so she's knit a whole bunch of samples with blended fiber. And then Tasha MC, she is spinning yarn for yarn samples. And so I believe what Tasha said in her notes is that she's not actually spinning to make any project at the end of the day. She's spinning a whole bunch of samples, and then she's making a catalog of all of these different samples. So it's a sampler. So she'll have a binder full of different options, I guess, for the future. And then Nicole is going week by week and doing the exercises, and I'll show you a photo of her notes. It's really, really, really impressive. So this is just some of the things for you guys to check out. There are so many. So here is one by Allison B that we wanted to share with you. And so she's doing a breed study at the same time as she's doing this spinning study group. And so you can see here, she's got a bunch of different fibers. I actually, if you go to her actual thread here, Allison's study notes, she's got tons of photos of everything that she's working on right now. But she's doing fiber that she received from the Shave 'em to Save 'em, this SE to SE, Shave 'em to Save 'em. And that's a whole project, as an initiative about helping people access rare sheep breeds. And so being able to access the fiber of rare sheep breeds. So she's got all these different sheep breeds that she's playing with or learning and spinning with. So Gulf Coast Native, Santa Cruz, South Down, she said, yeah, Oxford and Shetland, Jacob, Glenforest, Florida Cracker, Navajo Churro, Lincoln, CVM, all of these things. And then with the fiber that she's spun, she is making them into crocheted squares. So many crocheted squares. And so she says the book that she's using for these crochet square patterns is called Granny Square Academy by Shelley Husband. So I encourage you to go check out this link because it was super, super beautiful and impressive to see. And then here are Nicole's samples. And so this is directly the test that Kim was encouraging us to do, where we take the fiber and soak it ahead of time. We pre-soak the fiber and then we let it dry, and then that helps to restore the natural crimp, and then it helps to maybe like puff up the fiber a little bit. It might change the texture of the fiber from something that's maybe like commercial prep or whatever. And after it's been soaked, then you spin it, and then you choose whether or not you're going to finish the yarn, which is like wet finishing your handspun yarn, or not. And so here, Nicole has all of her sample skeins all here, and then they're all listed out. So not soaked or finished, short forward, not soaked or finished, short backward, not soaked and finished, short forward. So all of the different iterations, and then looking at what is the wraps per inch for each, what is the twist per inch for each, what's the grist, what's the twist angle look like for everything, and then how elastic is all of this. So all of these skeins, I wonder, so I think maybe Nicole has put in her notes like which one feels better, which one looks more shiny. I think it was in her notes that she was saying that the ones that were pre-soaked looked like they were a little bit more had more of a sheen, more luster to it. So you'll find different observations from different students and different spinners based on different fibers, different methods, all sorts of things. So much learning that's happening right now in there. So that is the stuff with the spinning study group. I am so excited to see all of the intense effort that is being put into all of these tests. I really just encourage you guys to go to the spinning study group and check out people's threads and check out what people are learning. There's so much spinning that's happening, but also so much documentation that's happening. And I think that is one of the most exciting things about this, is just to see everybody, how they're taking notes, all the different ways that they're taking notes, whether it's on index cards, whether it's like in a notebook like this, or if it's in a digital format. There's just a lot of learning that's happening. Oh, yeah, I think Nicole is actually here in the chat, and she's saying a certain style. Yep, that's it. I thought pre-soaked had more luster with those samples, but in a subsequent round of sampling, that didn't seem so apparent. Fantastic. Yeah. Good. So that is it for the spinning study group stuff. If you guys have not yet joined, if you're still interested in joining, you can jump in at any time. This is you're never going to be behind with any of this stuff. We're all learning as we go. Now, I wanted to kind of shift gears and talk about weaving because the blankets are done. So I have 2 blankets here that I'm going to share with you, but I think last month I shared with you the blanket that I was making with the gradient sock blank, and then I made another blanket with the flax and silk fine, which is a linen and silk blend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. This is a preview of the course that's going to come out at the end of October. But yeah, the final blanket, I ended up going with Rose Path Treadling to go with the Rose Path threading. And so this is kind of the pattern that's coming out of it. The colorway that I'm using is Magician. And one of the trickier things about this particular blanket was that, like when you're using hand-dyed yarn for a knitting project, you can very easily alternate skeins by knitting one round of one color and then knitting another round of the other skein, and you just alternate back and forth, and you can get really good mixing and blending of colors in that way. Now with this particular blanket, I don't know if you're going to be able to see very clearly. Let me see if I can. This is my blanket here. I had 2 skeins, and one skein was slightly more blue and one skein was slightly more purple. I don't know if you can kind of see from here to here is slightly more blue, and then from here to here is slightly more purple. They're very, very, very subtle. When you stand back, it's very apparent. They almost look like giant stripes of different colors when you look from far away. So they feel really good. This blanket feels amazing. This is the flax and silk fine, so it's linen and silk blend. And because it's a little bit finer than the beam, the beam, which is the organic cotton, the 3-2 organic cotton, it has a beautiful feel and a beautiful drape to this blanket. But yeah, because I couldn't alternate shot for shot for shot with these 2 different skeins, I ended up just alternating bobbins. So what I would do is I would weave with one of these black bobbins, which came from one skein, and then I would put in the red bobbin, and then I would weave off that one, and then I go back and I weave off a black one, and then I weave off the next red one, and so on and so on and so on. And so as I was doing that, I was making these stripes of like one skein, and then the next skein, and the next skein, and so yeah. Maybe if you see, you can kind of see in the tiny little picture. Yeah, let's see. Maybe it's apparent. I feel like once you see it, you can't unsee it. But in any case, that is this blanket, and it's done. So that's one, and then I'll show you the entirety of this one, because this one came off the loom. You guys didn't see that one before. So this is the blanket with the sock blank. I think this one is my favorite so far. So I love, 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 love this one, because this one being made with the wool, this is made with basically Tough Love sock. And so the superwash wool, it's going to be nice and easy care and everything like that, but it also is very, very soft. It feels really good. It has a nice drape, nice weight, everything. Yeah, I'm really loving this blanket. Ta-da! Okay, so that is that part. Then I also wanted to talk a little bit about when I was weaving this blanket, when I was weaving this last blanket, I found that my floating selvages, because I use floating selvages because I'm doing twill, I'm weaving twill, and I had to weight the two floating selvages on both sides because they were starting to get floppy, and I'm wondering if that was kind of like related to a warp tensioning issue, because my warp was like 7 yards long, and so maybe getting to the end of my warp, it wasn't as evenly tensioned as I would have liked. And so I had to put some weights on that. And I believe it was Sarah in the forums who was also talking about learning about weighting floating selvages and how important that was. So in the past, when I learned how to weight floating selvages, we would use something like this, right? Like, do you guys remember what these are? This is film canisters. So we take like the film out, and then with these canisters, you pop some coins in when people used coins, and you put some coins in, and then you can tuck like the tail of a piece of yarn in here, and then close it up, and then hang this off the back of your loom, like just basically tie that to your floating selvage, and then that would add weight to your warp ends. But you know, like, I don't know how many people still have film canisters. Oh yeah, Vicky's saying I've used pill bottles. That's perfectly fine too, right? So yeah, definitely. But I started to use these. These are made by Ashford, and it's made for repairing broken warp threads. So the idea is that like you can wind on the replacement warp that you're going to be putting on here, and then you can hang this off of the back. I'm going to have a whole tutorial on how to replace broken warp threads because we had a few during this project. But the idea is that it comes with these washers, and the washers basically serve as the weights, and you can put on as many as you need in order to add weight to your project. So this is this has been kind of useful. So I take this, and then you can tie that to, or you can just hook this to the back of your warp thread, and then that has been helpful as well. Yeah, so lots of different options. If you don't have a film canister, you can get something like this. This is also very, very useful. So yes, this class is going to be happening at the end of October, and then what I'm hoping to do, and you can let me know if this is of interest to you, but we're hoping to do this weaving study group starting in January 2022, and the weaving study group will be about weaving twills, and so we'll break down all of this content week by week by week and try to get people started with weaving their first 4-shaft twills. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. Yeah, S-hooks. So definitely, I have S-hooks too. So yeah, you can put your string on here. Oh yeah, you can put an S-hook. Yeah, S-hook without even adding any other stuff to it, right? You could put an S-hook, and then on the other end of the S-hook, you can hook some washers. That's also possible. Yeah, fantastic. So we also had some questions. This was also by Sarah. Sarah's asking a question about tying onto a previous warp. My first attempt was not a happy experience. Would love some tips on tying onto a previous warp. So I love tying onto a previous warp. That is how I managed to get most of my weaving done, is just reusing the threading that I have previously used. I talk about this quite often. I talk about the idea of like creating almost like a template and putting that onto the loom, and then in the future I can just cut off and then rejoin, retie. I do this quite often, and that's how I managed to get so many scarves woven. But you can see here, this is how I generally set up my project to tie onto an old warp. So I take Lee sticks and I put that through the cross of the new warp, and then I secure those Lee sticks to the front of the loom. And so in this case, I just happen to have these angel wings, or not really angel wings, I guess they're like supports for Lee sticks, and I have this on the front of the baby wolf. You don't have to have this. If you don't have this, you can just use, I have used before, Ashford also makes these things called helping hands, which is just, it's a piece of jersey fabric, like cotton jersey, cut into a strip, and then you can use that to basically tie your lee sticks to the front of your loom, or you can just use mop cotton, you can use whatever. Just secure your lee sticks with the cross to the front of the loom. And then the other really important thing is that with your previous warp, leave enough yarn in front of your reed in order to tie on. Like I've cut off my project too close to the reed and then just not had enough room to tie on. So leaving enough room in front of the reed is really, really important if you're wanting to tie on for a future project. And then I just very, very slowly, I just look at the cross here, and I just pick up this end and then tie it on, and then the next end and then tie it on, and I tie just with an overhand knot. I don't tie with a square knot, I just tie with a plain old overhand knot, and I leave about 1/2 inch for the tail, and then I pull on it, I tug on it to test the knot to make sure that it's tight before moving on to the next end. And so I do this all the way across. I think it's really, really efficient. I did see a video of somebody holding the cross in their left hand and then tying all the knots with one hand, and I don't know how that works, but it looks amazing and super fast. And then once all the knots are tied, what I do is I hold on to the reed, and then on the other side of the reed, like the side closer to where all the heddles are, I just grab a bunch, not too many, but grab like a small handful of ends, and then just jiggle them through the reed. And they kind of go pop, 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 pop. It's a very satisfying feeling. It goes pop, 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 pop through the reed, and then I pull them through in bunches, and then pull the reed forward, and then wind a little bit onto the back, and then again take a bundle from behind the heddles and then kind of jiggle them through all of the heddles, and they'll make that sort of popping sound through the heddles. And then once all the knots have passed through all the heddles and they're free and open in the back, then I can go on with the whole beaming process of beaming the warp. I find it very, very efficient to do, but again, this means that you have set up a template, you have to use the same threading every time, and if you're somebody who really likes to do different threading patterns every time or different weave structures every time, then maybe you don't have to worry about this so much. But yeah, if you want to tie onto a previous warp, absolutely, that's basically what I do. Let's see. Rebecca's asking about the weaving project that we're going to do for the for the Twill study group. Yes. So for the study group, I have designed the Twill Gamp to be 15 inches wide so that you can make it on a table loom. You will need a 4-shaft loom to do this project. So 4-shaft loom and at least 15 inches wide. Elaine's asking for the 12th course, can I use my rigid heddle for this? Not at this point in time. And so this is part of the reason why we're thinking about, like, should we do 2 different study groups at the same time? Is that too confusing? Because Amanda's class on the clasped warp and weft is all being done on a rigid heddle, and that project is perfect for rigid heddle. It's something that works so beautifully with a rigid heddle. And so thinking about also exploring that aspect of it, you guys can let me know if you think it's too confusing to do 2 types of things at the same time. SJ is asking, how worried are you about keeping the lengths even? Do you mean for when I cut off the previous warp? Yes. I definitely make sure that I cut off the warp as evenly as possible, making sure that it's even lengths for sure before I tie on. You can weave twill on a 4-shaft loom? Yes. Found the smaller the tails, the easier it is to open a shed when you get back to it again. Sometimes my tails will catch on the threads next to it and keep the shed from opening cleanly. Yes, yeah. So when I tie those overhand knots, just about 1/2 inch, make it really not so long that they'll catch on each other, but not so short that they might accidentally open up, because that would be not good. Fantastic. Yes, we're doing color and weave for rigid heddle next year. So more content for rigid heddle is definitely coming. I have another question from Linda, who's asking about making smooth gradient blends. So she says, I'm a new spinner and I'm very interested in blending colors. If my goal was to create gradient sets from dyed fiber, what would be the best tools to use to make sure that the colors are well blended? So I think, so I have some photos in here. This is just fiber that has been hand painted, right? So you can see chunk of purple, chunk of blue, chunk of turquoise or teal or whatever green that is. And so I think that her question is very much about taking fiber that's been hand painted and then being able to break that up and to make it into a gradient yarn. So we've talked about this before about doing like chain plying, where you take the fiber and you break it up into all of the different groups of fiber. So like if you have your fiber like so, let's do this. So if you have your fiber like so, what you would do is you could break it up. You have to draft it out, break it up, and then say we're going to take out just the purple section, and then just this pink section. Now we're going to break out the gold section, and then like so, and like so. So we're basically collecting little piles of fiber that are approximately the same color, and then you have like, you can lay them all out. And so you'll have like all the purples will go here, all the pinks will go here, all of the kind of gold colors will go here, and all of these colors will go here, right? Something like that. Now, obviously, you can see that with each one of these little bundles, each one of these little piles, there's like other colors that are in here. And so in order to get this to be the most blended possible, then you'll want to blend this together in some way. So you could either, probably the easiest way to do it would be to use a blending board for something like this. And then you could very easily sort of like put this onto the blending board and sort of distribute it so that the color is all kind of better distributed, and then you can pull this off and then make this into either a rolag or a bat, depending on how you're going to actually go to spin it. But using a blending board is like a really, really easy way of blending the fibers together. You could use hand carders as well to make sure that the colors are blended together. That would also work very well. I feel like hand carders would work really, really well. Yeah, I think it really depends on what you want to do at the end of the day, what you want to do. But yeah, the way that we make a gradient yarn from something like this is to kind of divide up all the colors and then make sure that you can blend each one of these sections before you go to actually spin it. Do you have a preferred twist angle for the singles and applied sock yarn? Yeah, Nicole, if you want to ask in the discussion forums, I think a question like this about twist angle for your singles and plied yarn for sock yarn 2 or 3 ply, and you can ask Rachel in the forums, that would be fantastic. She also has information in there from previously for twist angle as well, but generally like a higher twist angle. But yeah, what Greta's saying, depends on your final yarn. Depends on what you like. Maybe you need to sample. Lots and lots of sampling. So I like to mention different threads that I kind of want to highlight and encourage you guys to check out. And so this month, Tabitha posted a post where Sweet Georgia is actually looking for test knitters. And so I wanted to make sure that that you knew about that. So you can go here if you were interested in doing any test knitting for Sweet Georgia. And we have been talking a lot about ergonomics, ergonomics for knitting, ergonomics for spinning, ergonomics for weaving. And so there's another conversation here that's come up about spinning with an e-spinner and where to put that e-spinner in order to have the best sort of ergonomics for your shoulders, for working so that you're not hunched forward, all of these kinds of things. And so I encourage you guys to check out that conversation about ergonomics. There's another conversation here about spinning singles for socks. So maybe that would be really helpful for you too as well, Nicole. This is one, it's about the thickness. How thick do you need to spin your singles in order to make various sock yarns? And so Rachel is in this conversation talking about this and like how fine do you need to spin if you're going to make a 3-ply? How fine do you need to spin if you're going to make a 4-ply yarn? All of that. So there's a lot of conversation about spinning for socks there. And finally, I did want to mention that we have just finished the MCAL, the once a year mystery knit along for Sweet Georgia, big shawl project, which was designed by Ruth this year. And there was lots of conversation over the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks already. And now everybody is starting to post photos of their finished shawls. So I would love for you guys to go check out what people have made and show some love, send some encouragement to everybody who has finished that massive project. It's a big, big project and lots of learning happening in that area as well. And finally, I wanted to share some of your work. So this is incredible. All of these projects are incredible. So you have to go to these links here that I've just said down here. But this is Vicky. Vicky is in the chat here. Vicky did the natural dye study group with us this summer and produced so much natural dyed yarn, fabric, everything. And so there's a list here of everything that she's made. She made 64 different colors of embroidery floss, 24 pieces of Aida cloth, 4 shirts were dyed, 25 skeins of BFL, superwash BFL, 5 skeins of superwash BFL in silk, 4 skeins of superwash BFL in nylon, 22 skeins of hand spun yarn, and so a total yardage of almost 22,000 yards of yarn, almost 13 pounds of stuff. These are just 2 of the photos, but there are so many, and they're so beautifully done. I am especially just in awe of how well organized everything is and how well documented everything is. Like you can see here, this is normally a case that you would use for embroidery thread. These are embroidery bobbins. And she's written on here, these ones were saddened with iron. This one was exhaust. This one is iron. This one, there's just all sorts of notes on all of these. But just look at the incredible range of colors that she's produced with natural dyes. Like these blues are really lovely. Like this is just like that duck egg blue kind of color. It's incredible. It's just incredible. Yeah. It's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of these things with us, Vicky. It's quite amazing. Do we find these threads in the forums of the school? Yes, Kathy. So these are in the, if you go into the community and then go under groups, the Natural Dye Study group has everybody's threads in them, all of their learning threads. And so this is Vicky's thread, where she's sort of documented all of the stuff that she's done with the natural dyeing. But this is just 2 out of many photos of the beautiful work that she's done with natural dyeing. Very intense. Very wonderful. Thank you for sharing that one. We also have Rebecca, who's just right here in the chat. So Rebecca, this is her first hand spun project. And she said, I wanted to make something that I would keep and use for a very long time, since this is my first spun yarn. And so she crocheted it together, holding the 2 yarns together at the same time. I just think it's brilliant. It's awesome. Like to be able to spin your first yarn and then to use it for a project that you will keep for a very long time. It's wonderful. It's absolutely fantastic. And so this is her yarn, which she's plied, and then I'm assuming that using both skeins at the same time to make this it's just like the colors are blended and mixed together into a more like a heathered fabric here, because you can see sort of this marled heathered fabric happening, but also stripes. It just turned out so so well. And this is something that we try to encourage everybody to do, is just to not just make the yarn, but then use it and sample it. How did it feel? Did it feel good? What would you change next time when you go back to spin that yarn again? It's fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing that, Rebecca. It's awesome. This is Sarah, who I mentioned before. Sarah was asking questions before. And so she wove the Hearthstone shawl, which is a pattern that we made in the multi-shaft weaving class. So yeah, if you are interested in learning how to use 4-shaft loom, taking that multi-shaft weaving class is hopefully going to be very helpful. And this is kind of like a broken twill pattern, and you can see she's used 2 different colors in the warp. So it's birch and tumbled stone as the warp, and then she used marine, which is a dark navy blue, for the weft. And it looks beautiful. Really, really lovely. So it's a broken twill pattern. She says I would definitely do again, and I prefer to work on smaller yarns though, so maybe a scarf with sock yarn or lace weight or both. And so yeah, this is something that I've been thinking about too. I just wore my Hearthstone shawl yesterday while I was standing in the rain watching soccer practice, and I was just thinking about how it would be nice to weave that again in a lighter yarn, maybe the BFL and Silk Fine. I'm doing a lot of sort of testing and swatching with that one, and then I would rewrite the pattern for a different weight of yarn. That could be really fun. Yes, the hashtag use your handspun. You can check that out on Instagram. Lots of people using their handspun. This one I wanted to share with you guys because this is a course that we did maybe a couple months ago with Charlotte. Charlotte taught wet felting. And so it's about basically taking fiber and blending it on a blending board and then taking off the bats and then using that to felt things. But the startup or the warm-up project for that class was felting soap. And so I thought this is a lovely idea to share. And Vicky's done a beautiful job with her hand felted soaps. They're so pretty. But I just wanted to highlight it for everybody because it's kind of like a nice little holiday gift. And it's a holiday gift idea. It's something that's not too onerous, uses like little bits of fiber, but it can make a nice gift. And so it's something to think about if you're interested. I feel like September is the time where you have to start working on holiday gifts already. And so yeah, this is something to consider if you have extra fiber hanging around your stash right now. It's something to do. And finally, we're at the giveaway slide. So this is, we're going to do a giveaway for a hand-painted fiber. So Sweet Georgia, we just came out with a whole bunch of new colorways, and we came out with Cordale fiber as well, a new thing for us. And so there's lots of different options for hand-painted fiber. But now in celebration of this spinning intentional color class and learning how to work with hand-painted fiber, we want to give you some. So to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is go to this link, which is schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/live-sept2021, and we'll keep this open until tonight. And then you just basically enter a little bit about what you learned from today, what was important from today, what you might put into practice after today, and yeah, it's not very onerous, I hope. And if you just enter that, and then we will do a draw for a winner, and then you can pick whichever fiber you like, whichever color you like, and then we will send that out to you. That is basically it for today. So I have our contact information here. I left the link here because I'm always moving away from the slide that has the link with the giveaway on it. So the giveaway link is still here, but also our contact information, sweetgeorgiayarns.com, schoolofsweetgeorgia.com. You can find us on Instagram for both, and of course email here as well. So I'll put this back on this page, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that anybody has in the chats. I am trying to follow and see what you guys have been saying. Yeah. Yes, Greta has been spinning a lot of the new colorways for her project, which I wonder how that is coming along. I have not had as much time to spin as I would have hoped for September. I don't know how September always gets to be so busy, but I'm so hoping that when we get to Thanksgiving, or Canadian Thanksgiving, that I'll be able to do a little bit of spinning that Canadian Thanksgiving weekend and kind of get going on the colors that I'm supposed to spin 6 different colorways to make my giant night shift shawl. So yes, definitely I have to get on the spinning some more. Vicky's saying the wool helps to make a lather without a loofah for doing the felted soap. Yes, yes, you can cut it open to make various things from felted wool. Yes, fantastic. I've always wanted to make felted soap too. I know we have some, like those little hotel soaps. You can just practice with felting those. It would be really lovely and fun. Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for being here. It's wonderful to spend a morning with you. Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. So if you guys have any other questions, please do find me in the community forums. You can also message me. You can come see us at Knit City. Come say hi. Julie, we will definitely have fiber at Knit City. We're bringing a lot of fiber to Knit City. We're just talking about how we brought in new knitting needles as well that we're gonna play with, signature needles. So we will have those at Knit City as well. I'm going to be getting myself a set of double pointed needles from Signature to try to knit socks double pointed. I'll tell you how that goes. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. Have a lovely day, everybody. All right. Bye.